Hello, and welcome to the world of Skirmish Turf. I'll be taking you through a world building project of mine, set in a fantasy world in which the magic is gone and the gods have been slain by the slave races they created for their much more favored creations. It's been a long time. I've been busy with schoolwork and some other things. Without further delay, though, let me introduce you to one of the many races that inhabit Skirmish Turf, vampires, or, as they go by in this world, the Velmeg. One idea for Skirmish Turf was to take a fantasy race or creature I normally don't like and try to shape it in a different but unique way. I had a couple ideas for this. My first one was the Saurians, a species of intelligent lizard men. Normally, lizard folk are either depicted as savages or as equal in intelligence as humans. So I went with an in-between. They would have been an industrial society, but they would have been extremely brutal and not very creative. It might have had potential, but I thought I could come up with something better. Next up was mountain trolls. These would have been weird had I gone further with them. The idea was that these fellows would have been some of the last non-slave races created by the gods, only spared because they hid from the fires of revolution. Besides this loose concept, I didn't know where to go with them, so they were scrapped. Then I thought of a race of bird aliens capable of using magic. This was scrapped for being obviously stupid. When trying to come up with new ideas, don't watch Independence Day. After these failed designs, I chose something that I could care less about. Undead bloodsuckers. I understand the appeal of vampires. They're very flexible bad guys and have a lot of power and history behind them. You can have them as creepy corpses that skulk around in castles, or as attractive super people powered by a thirst for blood and more power. I understand the appeal. They symbolize the evil desires of man, how the need for more turns us into a monster. But it's those things that hold them back for me, personally. I feel like that emphasis on power makes them too perfect. Like, being a vampire has its downsides, but it feels like it's so minuscule that it doesn't matter. Sure, they can fly, hypnotize, have super strength, super speed, and are functionally mortal, but they burn up in the sun, so that balances things out, right? I know different interpretations call for different abilities, but I felt like it's always been too much. At least with werewolves, there's a sense of uncontrollable savagery that adds a sense of dread to being a monster. For vampires, it always feels like there's more of an emphasis on how cool or sexy they are, rather than on the monster itself. I wanted to ask myself something. What happens when you take the monster out of the monster? What you're left with is a super person or a creature. So, what if vampires were not a curse, but were flesh and blood beings that were born just like you and me? What if man wasn't the only intelligent race striving for dominance? Well, you get the Velmeg. My first idea for a race of vampires was to take inspiration from their legendary Chupacabra. It's reportedly a vampiric dog thing, and earlier sightings made it out to be reptilian. That made me think of a better idea. What if the Velmeg were based on synapsids? If that sounds familiar, but you don't know what that is, they're often called mammal-like reptiles and were essentially the link between reptiles and mammals. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. The Chupacabra is described as either a reptile or a mammal, so I chose to include both. The biggest hurdle for the design process was the head. It had to combine a lot of things together in a way that felt right for what I was doing. The overall framework of the Velmeg is based on humans, but I wanted a mammalian creature with hints of reptilian features. The only obvious vampire inspiration was the ears, taken directly from a vampire bat. Other than that, I took things from chameleons, spider monkeys, possums, and gorgonopsids. I wanted the synapsid influence to mostly be shown by giving the Velmeg a bony and rigid face. A lot of reconstructions of synapsids are wrong, mostly because they don't take into account the placement of muscle and fat. The reference I use for the gorgonopsid is dated. While animals like Dimetrodon, another synapsid, are thought to have smoother bodies, it's likely that many synapsids had very bony faces. I knew I wanted a cheek crest, along with very rigid eyebrows. The latter part gave me hell. I went through so many designs on the eyebrows. I've never had this much trouble with eyes since I got pink eye when I was 7. I tried to balance the more rigid facial structure with an intelligent look, and for a while it didn't work. I reduced the size of the brow to make it look less Neanderthal and more serious. But the way the brow was positioned meant that the Velmeg looked constantly worried. I went back and forth on position and scale, going from way too sad looking to way too pissed. Eventually, I realized that it was going to look worried no matter what, because that's just how the human brain works. It's the reason puffins look sad all the time, so I decided just to settle the look on what it is. One thing I decided early on was to cover up the fangs. While saber teeth are cool, it isn't realistic because teeth dry up exposed. Crocodiles live in the water, so they don't count. This had the unintended consequences of making the Velmeg slightly dog-like and weirdly cute. I wasn't going for that look, but I felt satisfied with the design. With design covered, let me answer this. How did an intelligent race of synapsids come to be, and how did they differ from humans? Their origin dates back to the days of old, when the gods created their first children, and they spoiled them rotten. The elves, dwarves, and orcs wanted things to play with, things to abuse and exploit till they broke. The children of the gods had sick desires, and the gods were all too willing to please. From the trees the gods plucked the apes, and gave them form, making them more upright, giving them the gift of intelligence, or in this case, a curse. These satisfied the purposes of the elves and orcs, but not the dwarves. Humans are creatures made for walking, not climbing in caves. They require sun to see and get lost too quickly in the dark. The dwarves needed slaves to serve as miners, things that could toil in the underground for materials to feed their vanity projects. And thus the gods created a new slave, one formed from the bones of a lineage long extinct. They took a synapsid, likely a creature similar to a Sominia, and made it into a working creature. So in a way, the Velmeg are the living dead. Gold, silver, and gemstones were hauled out from the underground, while the Velmeg were casted in iron chains. With intelligence comes a sense of fairness, and a desire for revenge. It has been lost to time what race rebelled first, humanity or the Velmeg. What happened next, though, is clear, as the creatures in the dark came forth to slay the dwarves. Many counts say the Velmeg's knowledge of the underground was crucial in victory, both for transportation and to supply the radioactive material to kill the gods and their bastard sons. The Velmeg helped build their empire, and they helped tear it down. From that point onward, the Velmeg's history would be shaped like humanity. They have long histories of empires rising and falling, of success and failure, of peace and war. But what makes them any different from people then? Well, for one, they don't produce milk. Yes, despite being largely mammalian, the Velmeg don't lactate, meaning their young are capable of digesting semi-solid foods from birth. Velmeg also have a much more protein-based diet. They're omnivorous and do consume a lot of nuts and mushrooms, but they also consume large amounts of meat and blood. To the Velmeg, consuming blood is not something to do raw. It's like eating raw meat. It's likely to get you sick and possibly a parasitic infection. Preparation of blood to consume is an art form, with many different cultures having different styles to do so. The Velmeg have mastered this craft, with different ways to prevent blood from coagulating or to induce it. It's often used as a topping or as a stew. Blood makes us sick, but to them, it's delicious. In case you're wondering, consuming the blood of an intelligent being is no better than cannibalism, and that includes humans. Velmeg also live much longer than humans, with an average lifespan of 120 to 140 years old. The longest living Velmeg has been reported to be 162 years old. Their feet, while not making them the fastest runners, allows for easy passage through rough terrain. The biggest thing about the Velmeg you'll notice is their prehensile tail. It acts as a third arm glued to their ass. It's useful for lots of things, and makes them a very dexterous species. Their body shape also means that they have very specialized shoes, clothes, and vehicles. Velmeg chairs always leave a spot for their tails. As for nations, there are many Velmeg countries. One such nation is Galicia. Galicia is a coastal country with a long history of traveling the high seas. Soon they became a rich merchant nation, and would form a mighty army from their wealth. If this sounds familiar, then that's because they're based off of the Netherlands. Why? Because Romania is too cliche, and it's because the Dutch cannibalized their prime minister. Indeed, in 1672, the Dutch, angered by decisions their leader made, proceeded to eat him. I guess he left a bad taste in their mouth. Talk about eating the rich. Say what you want, but at least he kept his country fed. The Netherlands is known for its refined taste in politics, and being a bad leader costs you an arm and a leg. Instead of a filibuster, they made him into a filistake. Okay, I'll stop. So yeah, the Velmeg, a very intelligent species that rule the night while we rule the day. Despite being a head scratcher, I enjoyed designing them a lot. I hope you found this creation interesting and you could stomach some of my more tasteless puns. I will make future videos about various Velmeg nations that inhabit this world. I know this is different from what I said in my last video, but no one watched that, so I can do whatever I want. I'll try to upload more frequently, but we'll see how that goes. Until then, I bid you all farewell, and until next time, stay safe and have a good one.